What's up, guys? Welcome to the Best Western, the only podcast that talks about Western culture in today's society. My name is Sam, and I'm here with Stuart, Brandon, and today we're going to be talking about different movies and how they portray Western cultures and ideas, and maybe even call in some favors from some.
Yeah, we're gonna have what's his face, Mr. Jackson, come on. He's gonna be talking to you a little bit about his theories on the West, his frontier thesis. He's gonna explain it to you the best he can because we're not too knowledgeable on it, but hopefully he can give us some insight into it. We're gonna have Brandon dial him up right now, and he's gonna talk about it.
All right, let's see if we can get Mr. Turner on the line. Do you think he actually pick up?
I don't know.
Let's wait and find out.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Turner. We're here from the Best Western Podcast, and we just wanted to talk to you for a little bit about your ideas and your thesis on the Western frontier.
Ah, the Western frontier. What a great time for the frontier. That's when we Americans were just spreading out to the west from the east. Something that y'all won't appreciate today.
Why do you say that?
In today's society, all you are already born with all this technology and machines. Back in my time, we were just inventing those. The border between the East and the West civilizations was the border between what was already known and what was unknown. Anyone branching out to there was risking their lives, freedom, and just any chance at hope.
So would you say it's some sort of that today's West and West and East represents something?
Today's West and East civilizations don't represent as much as they did in the past. Today's Americans won't understand the struggles the founding fathers went through, such as George Washington and Abraham Lincoln.
All right.
And why do you say that? Is it something to do with, making a democratic system in their communities? Would you agree with that?
I would. Y'all kids today already got things lucky for you. All this stuff has already been set up, and you guys won't be able to experience it again.
Do you believe the West is the line between civilization and people being savages?
It was back in the day. Now, all that's colonized. You guys don't get to see crazy Indians out there. Y'all know exactly what's there now.
All right, yeah, that sounds pretty good, but we're gonna have to disagree with that in many ways.
I would say so too. I'm sorry, Mr. Turner. We are here to debunk your theory as it was, or at least we'll do our best to.
We're gonna maybe call you at the end after we'll have you listen in.
Just talk
on
a
this.
little more, but yeah.
But we're gonna go through 3 movies in particular: My Side of the Mountain, Fight Club, and Easy Rider, to disprove your theory and to prove that Americans today can still experience the West through popular culture.
So we will call you back after we've finished discussing. Please stay on. Please stay on. Listen. That way you can maybe prepare some counter arguments or whatever. But thank you for calling us, or thank you for letting us call you, and we'll call you back in a little while.
I guess I'll see myself.
All right. So it was nice to have Mr. Turner on the line.
It was.
He was a character, but we're gonna tear his thesis apart. We're gonna start off with. Let's start off with My Side of the Mountain. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll agree to that. And let me speak on to My Side of the Mountain a little bit. So in watching My Side of the Mountain was a pretty good movie, I'd have to say. It was it's about this boy named Sam, and he pretty much at the beginning of the movie he's very nature oriented. When you look at his room, you see just plants and animals and pretty much a lot of biology diagrams everywhere, and he's got a
He's got an algae collection.
yeah, he's
of all things, he's growing algae. Like that's his thing. I guess that was a 1950s thing. They were interested
possibly.
in algae.
I mean, we went from algae to video games somewhere along the line. I mean, there's a difference there, but he's got what blew my mind is how do you get a pet raccoon?
Yeah, he did have a pet raccoon.
I mean, Gus, how would you tame a pet raccoon? Like that thing's probably got rabies out the wazoo.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. But he also praised another interesting character from the past, Mr. Thoreau.
Yeah, Thoreau. He quotes in the beginning of the movie. So the premise of the movie pretty much is Sam leaves home to go live off in the wilderness for a year, up in the mountains of Canada, to study algae and be more like Thoreau. And he writes his parents a letter, saying pretty much that the quote from Thoreau is this: "It takes two to speak the truth, one to speak and another to hear." Now, I guess Sam felt that he wouldn't be able to study algae or really, even find himself for that matter, unless he went off and lived by himself.
I feel like he needed to engage himself, or engage with nature. He needed to become one with nature in this. Like, he really praised Thoreau's ideas, read his journals a lot, but when he actually goes out into the wilderness, it's a whole different story. He starts off, it's hard for him. He's got a lot of hardships, a lot of struggles ahead of him. Some in particular, he has to dig out a tree. He had to burn out a tree.
And it also showed how hard work was setting the frontier.
It's I can see what Brandon's trying to say. It's like when we were first settling the West, it was hard because there wasn't anything out there. It's just empty. You had to work to get yourself started. Nobody was there to hold your hand. There wasn't a pre-established civilization. If you went out there, you were taking on the challenge of America as itself. But like Stuart was saying really quick, was that he hauled out a tree. That was I couldn't do that. I sure as heck couldn't do that by myself.
Yeah, he liked to burn out the tree. He wasn't really smart. We saw him almost suffocate a few times. But you see the hardships there, and he learns from his mistakes, and he's able to grow as a person.
Yeah, he sure as hell was. I'd say that.
But there is sort of a difference. Every now and then he has to pop into town just to, research, get a little bit of civilization into him. He went out and also caught a bird.
Yeah,
that's a
peregrine falcon.
Pet squaw.
That thing. The scream that thing let out was the most annoying thing in the world, and it must have squawked at least 50 times during the movie.
Well, I kind of interpreted it as he was chasing the falcon. It was kind of like how he was chasing home and freedom.
Yeah, I would agree on that, because there was that one sequence, that really weird sequence where
it was a very, very trippy sequence. If anybody out there has ever done acid, and I really don't recommend you do it. I personally haven't done it. Let me just clarify that. But
no.
this is a very clean show, ladies and gentlemen, kid friendly. But it's this scene where this Sam is running through a field, and all of a sudden they fade in different scenes of this cartoon animated bird just flapping its wings, and it's very hallucinogenic because there's like 4 birds posted on top of each other all over the same place, and they're just flying. I still can't really tell you what that is, other than what Brandon was saying. He's right to say that it's sort of like freedom. He's chasing freedom.
Yeah, I see it, but obviously in the book version, the mountain that he climbs is much higher than the movie. They kind of skimped on the budget for that. But that being said, you do see that. You see him engaging with the falcon in many ways, but then at the end we see it die.
Yeah,
what does that really mean, though?
That was a sad point in the movie, I'd have to say. That was, I don't know, to be honest, I was a little relieved because I wouldn't hear the quaw anymore coming out of the bird, but it was
actually sad to see it go.
It was sad to see it go because you never expected it to come.
But honestly, I think that was one of the more, it was like a turning point in the movie.
Exactly.
You get the idea that he grew, he progressed, but then once that bird dies, it's like all hope sort of dies out as well. He comes in after Bando leaves. We got to talk about Bando for a second.
Gotta hit Bando.
Well, let's talk about Bando first, and then I'll get back to what I was saying. So Bando was a traveler that came in, plays his guitar, plays music, and it's interesting because he was looking for folk music out in the West. So when he goes out there, he's looking for just the real music of the people. That's what he tries to express. He doesn't like the music that comes out of the city.
He was looking for something, and I can't quite remember what it was.
He finds peace.
He's still finding peace. That's true. The scene where Sam meets Bando is pretty funny because Bando's just sleeping at his camp or whatever, and all of a sudden he's like, "I was expecting to find a Boy Scout, and all of a sudden I found you, young fella." That's not what Bando sounds like at all. That's just what I think of him in his head. But I didn't really know how to take that when they first met. But
Bando is definitely an interesting character. He added some dynamic to the story. But primarily, I think he served as a reminder of, you can be both. You can get both out of it. You can live in the wilderness and still end up going back. And I think that's what Sam realized. He realized that when the winter came, it's okay to go back home. It's okay. You don't have to struggle the entire way. You can get some sense of nature. He did experience nature. You still can do that and live in modern society.
So ask us this: who do you think's the
Do you guys think you see the American Adam figure in Sam or Bando?
That's a good question. I feel like Bando obviously presents himself with a very strong case because you see him show up halfway through the movie. You don't get a real background into his. He did say he led a very interesting life as being like a cook and a waiter and all these other jobs, but he doesn't really divulge into that, and he doesn't stay with Sam for long. It's 3 weeks if I can remember correctly, and then
he said he kept it as person that he had to go.
Yeah, that he
this
had
was
to
something
leave.
that he had to do. He had to find the other songs. He had to keep moving.
It's almost like the movie Shane in a sense, where Shane comes and sort of helps out all the people
And then leaves.
Doesn't he leave a letter too for?
Yes, he does. Sam asks him to mail a letter to his parents, letting him know that he was still, alive and well.
I think we do see a lot of elements of the American Adam, but I wouldn't classify him as a typical one. We do know a lot about him.
Yeah, that's
We
true.
know a lot about his past. We find out his name. He's an individual, but also he's integrated into society. He wants a family. You can sort of see that.
Yeah,
In a way, when he meets the librarian at the end, he really wanted to meet that librarian. Let me tell you something. But
yeah, he did. He did. That's right. That's right.
but yeah,
What do you think about Sam in a sense?
Sam as an American Adam. Unfortunately, he's too young.
Yeah.
He's too young.
He needs more experience.
Can you be too young though?
I don't know, but I think there is a certain experience requirement.
Well, Sam has that. I'd have to say.
No, I think he definitely grew. He
definitely did. Yeah.
he could have become an American Adam at the end, but he chose to go back, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
He didn't spend a full year there, as I remember.
Yeah, he did not meet his goal, but I think that also shows some of the realism of it. It shows the people that you can still go out, maybe for a day hike, 2-day hike, experience nature, grow as a person,
But he did
experience
more
the
than
struggles.
that, yeah.
He did more than that.
Because like what you're saying, like on a 2-day hike, you don't really experience many struggles because you're prepared going into that. Sam went in with not necessarily the bare minimum, but he was not fully prepared to spend a year there.
Yeah,
he knew that.
Mm-hmm. And especially when winter came, his inexperience really showed.
Yeah, with his tree getting snowed in, and he had a fireplace, and he was suffocating himself in. And
he had to dig himself out. It was,
luckily, Bando. If Bando hadn't come, if they hadn't written that into the script or into the book, Sam would have died definitely, due to lack of oxygen and cold.
and Gus too.
Yeah.
Gus too. But I think in a nutshell, My Side of the Mountain represents a sort of, it shows the viewer an ideal scenario where you can still go out and be find yourself in nature. And I think that's what they were trying to show.
That's true.
Especially from a young age, and that's why they chose a young protagonist, because he's still learning. He still has a lot to gain from the wilderness. So, I think My Side of the Mountain is a prime example of just Americanizing a person. He experiences the hardships. We still find a sort of an element of civilization there.
Yeah, I'd definitely say that My Side of the Mountain is definitely a great example of the American West.
Yeah. The only way to know nature is to live within it.
That's true. Yep.
Find oneself.
And it never ends. Wilderness is always going to be there.
All right, so we guys want to move on to the next movie.
I want to talk about this next movie. I've been itching to talk about it. So, do you want to start this off, any one of you, or do you want me to take care of it?
You want me to start it off?
If you
Easy
want,
Rider?
go for it.
Okay.
Easy Rider.
Picture this: we're in a cocaine deal. We got some cocaine cowboys on their Harleys.
Colombian Bam Bam.
All right, so basically, the plot of the story is they make a lot of money. two guys just riding. They start in the west, and they're moving east to Louisiana for Mardi Gras. They have all the money they could want. They have pretty much. They're set for life at this point.
Yeah, they're riding motorcycles, and I forget the one guy's name, but the other main character.
That's an interesting point of this movie. They rarely use the names.
Yeah, the names are not there, but they're riding these
Isn't it
bikes.
mostly in Spanish?
Oh, yeah, there is. Yeah,
There's a lot of Spanish
There's a lot of
in there.
Spanish in there.
But pretty much the one of the main characters' bikes, for me, really symbolizes America because A, it's a Harley Davidson, it's a custom Harley Davidson chopper, and it's decked out in the American flag, and the main character also wears a leather vest that's just covered with America.
Yeah.
To me, that's just, and the whole setting of the movie, driving cross country Route 66 and west, and driving through Arizona and seeing
The landscape. We got to take a minute. We got to
Yes.
just a brief minute to talk about the landscape of the movie.
I thought it was beautiful.
I think about. I'm being generous when I say maybe 40%. 40% of the movie is
Yep.
just landscape shots. You had just them riding through the deserts of Arizona, riding through.
New Mexico definitely was there. Starting out in California, excuse me.
But I think it was sort of a reflection of the beauty that still lies within America.
That's
They were
true.
trying to showcase that.
Because you don't see any of that anymore, which is really sad. Watching this movie was made back in the 60s.
And
None
it-
of that is there anymore.
It's so much of the movie. Though,
Yeah,
that
there's so
really
much.
it's heavily prevalent. You always have the sunset. The cuts in the movie were also interesting, where they look at an element of nature, or like like the sun, and then they immediately jump cut to another scene.
That's true.
You see like a a time progression through nature with that.
Speaking of the cuts really quick, the one thing that they did that I thought was actually a mistake in the movie, I've seen the movie before, but I hadn't seen it for a while. One thing that they do is when they change scenes, when they're focusing on a character, when they were changing scenes, was they would show the character's face, flash to the scene, the next scene, flash back to the character, and then go straight into the next scene. To me, I'm still trying to figure out what that all means, really, but there's got to be something important in there.
I mean, I think it's just a symbol of maybe time progression. You get the idea that through like the landscape, because it does flash between the landscapes.
Mm-hmm.
I think you also get the diversity of the landscape within America.
That's true.
Yeah. It also interests me how they speak of Native Americans and ask others to do and be polite to their land and on their land.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah, that was
tied
a-
into the scenery.
That scene. That was when they were. That
The
was when
campfire scene.
The campfire scene. Yeah.
They just picked up this hitchhiker. They take him, and he's talking to them about being respectful to the land.
Now, is this after they got drunk, or they got arrested for being in the parade?
No. This
That's
is
before.
way
Okay.
before.
Okay.
So he talks to them about being respectful to the land, and that just like sort of gave an element of spiritualism to the movie.
Yeah.
It has the classic idea there: be respectful to the land, appreciate it, and then also we later on when they drop him off at that hippie camp
That was
where they're farming.
Yep.
They're trying to make something out of nothing, and a lot of the people there seem like it's in vain. Like they're not going to get anything.
Because a lot of them were from the city at
Yeah,
first,
yeah.
and they were just like, that place was a big stoner fest. Like
Yeah,
that was a lot of the Mother of the Earth kind of people, where you have like these big communal family houses, and I was a little bit surprised, and this is going to sound weird to say, but that there wasn't as much nudity as I thought that was going to be in that particular scene of the movie. I know it sounds weird to say, but when I think of those like community houses, I just think of, what do hippies do? They smoke pot and they have a lot of sex. So that's what it boils down to. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but
I mean, I wouldn't have complained if that would have been in the movie, but I don't think it's completely necessary.
of course,
But
always practice safe sex, children.
But just looking into that landscaping scene where they're trying to cultivate some crops there, but there's a lot of naysayers, especially from the city,
Yep.
who don't believe that the rain's going to come. But I think it's the faith, really, that drives these people.
I think it is too.
It's a huge motivating factor for them. A lot of people say that they can't do something, but they can. And I think by the end of the movie, they make it.
You could say that the camp has, like,
godlike control over
exactly.
the destiny.
Yeah, like
destiny.
They believe that God is the one that's going to come down and make everything happen if they hope and pray hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense.
Exactly. I mean, I think that kind of goes in with the idea of manifest destiny. It's their God-given right.
Exactly.
They're gonna make this land work one way or another, and I think that also ties into the idea of civilizing the land.
Yeah.
They're starting out from nothing and creating crops, creating buildings, their own camps.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so not towards the end of the movie, but they pick up an interesting character in the middle, who is a little out there, but he does deliver some important lines. He talks about fear of the two main characters and what they represent.
Mm-hmm.
He speaks of it's a lot of people resent these people. A lot of people just resent hippies at the time, but it's not about. The two main characters think it's because of their haircuts, jokingly. They're like, oh, yeah, it's just because of my haircut. But he says something much deeper. He says, no, it's about what you represent.
Yeah.
You represent freedom. These men, they travel. They do what they want. They have the ability to do that. They have their motorcycles similar to horses, and that's interesting. You want to talk about that, in the very beginning of the movie, where he gets a flat tire on his Harley, and he needs to pull into this. He pulls into this ranch, and there's a horse.
That was a big scene. It sort of goes, and I see Brandon here is trying to say something, but I'll let you cut it in a second. But if we can jump back to that horse scene, it was Wyatt is the main character. We don't learn that until the end of the movie, but Wyatt's the character with the American flag bike, and he gets a flat tire, and he's got to push his bike over to this ranch. And he's like, hey, can I change my tire? And the guy's like, sure, go ahead and put it in the barn. And so the family's already there replacing the horseshoes on one of their horses, and Wyatt and his friend load up their iron horse onto stands, and they start changing the tires. These other guys are putting the new horseshoes on, and
I think what they're trying to do with that scene is they're really hitting you over the head with this symbolism here. The horse represents
the original
cowboy, and the motorcycle is the newer cowboy, and they're trying to explain that. Look, these hippies. This was a '60s movie. They're trying to explain, like, look, these hippies. They are American Adams.
Mm-hmm.
They do make a name for themselves. They're independent. They're Americans. Through the West, and through just riding through the landscapes, they become free. They become individuals.
Yeah, people. It's speaking onto the people. It's like you can't tell people what to do. Exactly.
Yeah, you can't tell people they're not free, and they'll start killing to prove it and to show what they mean.
Yeah, that's very true.
Mm-hmm.
People are afraid of what they don't know, and they're afraid to think of something. They're afraid of,
especially at the end of the movie.
Yeah,
if we want to talk about that for a second. Towards the end of the movie, we get two. I guess they portray them as hillbilly types.
Yeah.
From the South in Louisiana.
Oh, shouldn't we talk about the other scene first, where they take the?
Where they take the drugs? Oh, no. All right, we can talk about that.
Yeah, we'll be right back to this other scene, but there's this one scene that as many times as I've seen the movie over the years, and I tell you, I still can't figure it out to this day. There's this scene where they finally make it to New Orleans, and they're on oh my God, what's the street name? I forget. But they're at Mardi Gras, and they're walking down the street, and they go and they meet up. What?
Wall Street?
Not Wall Street.
Oh.
But they meet. They meet these like two prostitutes pretty much. They buy them with all this cash that they have, and they all go out for a morning or whatever, and they're just partying hard. And they wind up in a cemetery, and one of the characters has it's either ecstasy or roofies or something.
It's something. It's something crazy.
It's powerful. Yeah. And it's about a 7-minute scene of them just tripping on whatever the hell this thing is. And Stuart, you can go ahead and
I don't even know. I think I have a little idea of what it could mean. it's still very. You have to watch the scene maybe 100 times to maybe fully understand what the director was going for with this. But the closest thing I can get out of it is maybe he's trying to commentate on the drug use at the time. Maybe that's sort of the death of the American spirit.
Is because we're using
it takes
outside
place,
substances to experience
yeah.
realism, I guess.
But it also celebrates marijuana, which is, another,
it's
another
weird.
common thing.
It's
Yeah,
very
so
weird.
I mean that might not be the main argument.
It's
made
like when
from
they
that
pick up
scene.
the straggler. He's like, "Try this, man." And he's like, He's like, "What is that?" He's like, "It's grass." He's like, "You mean marijuana?"
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
And then he winds up smoking the whole
He
joint.
loves it. Yeah, he loves it, but it allows him to experience nature a little more. But that last scene, I can't really put into
nobody
words.
can
You have to really watch it for yourself.
And
But there is a lot of religious imagery there. Could be a commentary on America's religious.
how really I feel like this is a stretch to say, and I don't mean to be insulting or anything, but maybe he's kind of playing it off as religion's maybe starting to become more, not necessarily of a joke, but as something that's in the past. Because if you look at it today now, religion is definitely not as strong as it was back in the early start of.
And I think that also
the world.
plays into the American Adam aspect of the
Yeah.
two main characters. They're free from religion. They can pretty much have whatever they want, when it comes to the ladies, at least, they're both
definitely.
womanizers, especially in
Yeah.
that bar scene where they had, 5 or 6 girls looking for him, but
Mhm.
they said no to all of them.
Which was a smart decision, I have to say.
But you do also see a lot of resentment of their characters.
So, like, especially from the town sheriff and that other member that was there with them. They go to sleep outside in the wilderness, and in the middle of the night, these 4 or 5 guys come up and they beat the crap out of these guys with their guns. And one of the main characters gets off completely unharmed, and the other one's beaten badly over the head. And the hitchhiker that they picked up is killed. He's beaten so badly that he's killed. And it's just because they're different.
Yeah, they're different. It's not about. Again, it plays back to what he said. It's not about their haircuts or what they do. It's about what they represent.
That's true.
It's the freedom aspect, and I think what the movie's trying to say is that the freedom still exists today, even though a lot of people may resent it. It's still there, and you can still experience it. Let's go back to the final aspect of the movie.
Scene. Yep.
It's kind of sad. I don't know really what it means.
It's unexpected too.
It could mean maybe, in some ways, one could argue it's the death of the cowboy.
And the death of the hippie movement as well.
Where there's 2 hillbillies that roll up on him. They're driving. He says something to him. He's like, "Yeah, I hate your haircut" or something like that. Makes fun of his hairline or something.
Yeah.
And then just blows him away with a shotgun.
And
His friend comes back to look, and they blow him away too. But it's a tragic ending to the movie, and that's where the movie ends. And it leaves you to think: is the cowboy actually dead? What do you guys think about it?
I feel like in instance that kind of cowboy's dead. The whole badass Harley riding kind of cowboys died off. But you see the guys in the truck, they were hillbillies in a sense, but I mean they were wearing cowboy hats and everything like that. You could claim that they were the cowboy, but
I think it kind of shows the Wild West.
yeah,
too.
the
It's
wild, yeah, 'cause definitely the main characters were the wild side of the West.
Yeah.
That's true.
That could be a great possibility. They could be savages, like Brandon said, or yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with that point.
Because they were definitely drawing the line between savagery and civilization.
Mm-hmm.
But between their actions and how they influenced people.
Yeah,
All the
especially
way.
I think that also could be a commentary.
Yeah.
It's going back to that drug scene
Exactly.
with the savagery aspect. The women in the prostitution parlor or wherever they went told them repeatedly, "Oh, I don't drink. Oh, I don't do this." But then once they met them,
They did all of that
they,
kind of
they,
stuff.
they did all that stuff. But so I guess they could maybe represent that line.
Exactly.
They could have been the line.
One thing I
Yeah.
want to commentate, if you're done here, I don't want to
Mhm.
cut you off, but the one thing that sticks out with me in this movie is the soundtrack. And for me, it's like the soundtrack definitely stands out because you have or at least the two bands that stick out for me are, we have Jimi Hendrix, first of all, playing If 6 Was 9. And that is just a trippy song in itself. And then you have Born to Be Wild and The Pusher. I forget the band that does that. I should know that right on top of my head, but I don't. But those songs are... Born to Be Wild should have been the only song that they could have played through that entire movie, and it would have worked. Because it's
Just like in the High Noon, how they had that
just
one
High
song
Noon,
there.
yeah.
But I think that Born to Be Wild is, sort of representative of the movie itself.
It's the free American spirit essence. That's what the song to me symbolizes. It's that you can't tame the beast.
It's especially because these songs always played during the riding scenes with the long cuts of the scenery. So I think that also is like you said, showing the American spirit.
That's true. Yep.
So with that being said, do you guys want to move on to the
Third
final movie?
Sure.
Yeah.
You want to take it in, Brandon?
Yeah.
I don't have any.
Is for Fight Club?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is for Fight
Gotta
Club.
check our notes here for a second.
So, so going on to Fight Club. Fight Club is, I think, what we've discussed about Fight Club is it's a very interesting movie. To put it bluntly, I mean, it's watching it. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to spoil it for you guys. But if you guys really want to see this movie, I really recommend seeing it before you listen to the rest of this podcast.
Yeah, just turn this off right now if you haven't seen it. It's
Spoiler alert.
It's worth the 2.5 hours. So here's spoiler. We'll give you like
a warning, and a 5-second cutoff for it. But, but yeah, going into Fight Club, it's a movie about a character who remains nameless throughout the movie. Some people speculate on his name, but we don't know for sure. It's never used. But there is an interesting character that is named Tyler Durden. So the premise of the story is we have a man who, he lives his whole life. Excuse you.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, we have a man who goes through his life. He's dissatisfied with his life. He can't sleep. He lives. He's basically a slave to society.
He's just going through the motions of...
Yeah, exactly. In the mornings,
day-to-day life.
he's always watching public TV. He's always buying items out of IKEA magazines. Works a white-collar job, hates his boss. Typical American of the 90s. Sorry, we're going to take a quick Jolly Rancher break. But... he's a typical, just a typical worker. He's got no mind for himself. So basically what happens is, one day he's on a flight, and on this flight, he finds a man who's Tyler Durden, and here's the big spoiler, Tyler Durden is actually himself. So he finds himself on the flight.
Mind blown.
Yeah, you get that big reveal at the end, but I'm spoiling it now. But, so he ends up just hitting it off with Tyler. They're best friends. And then what happens is he comes back from his flight and his apartment is blown to smithereens. Everything comes out. And then this is when he sees his refrigerator on the ground, blown up refrigerator. I think this is a big symbol of the movie. He's got a refrigerator full of condiments. He's got nothing. He's got no substance in his refrigerator. He's always got is the sides. He's got the dressings. He's got like some of the nicer aspects of America. He doesn't have some like the savage, meat. He doesn't have any.
Savage meat.
No, but he doesn't have any like the main ideas. He's only got what's on the side. So basically, progressing in the story, he starts a Fight Club, in which he fights with himself. And I think this ties into the idea of regeneration through violence. What do you guys think on that?
I definitely agree on that.
Yeah, he's fighting himself. He's fighting other people, especially within the club. Like it spreads. Obviously, a lot of people want to join it. He's got a bunch. It grows exponentially across the country. It's a nationwide phenomenon. Everybody wants in on this. Everybody wants to become somebody better. And I think there's a really telling part in the movie when they're riding on a bus and they look at this like some designer clothing line, and they got this man on the bus like all ripped and stuff like that. And they asked an important question. They're like, "Is this what a man truly looks like?" And I think that goes into like the rough and tough nature of the American Adam. Any thoughts on that?
I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
it's
at
kinda
a loss
difficult.
for words. It's very difficult to describe the American Adam figure in this case, but
I mean, what I think one of like the harder parts. I mean, it's the idea is that because they beat each other up, because they're so rough and they're so tough, they can take a beating and they can still come back. Again and again. That also ties into the idea that there is sort of that's like the American spirit. You have to be beaten down and you can rebuild from that. We're so rigid.
it's like that one scene where they have to, or their one objective, I guess, in the Fight Club was that they have to pick a fight with a random stranger and lose.
yeah.
And I think y'all know the scene I'm thinking about, where it's one of the guys is picking a fight with, what's he, like a preacher or something like that? He's got the Bible and he's out hosing the sidewalk and he hoses the preacher and then smacks the Bible out of his hands and hoses that. And the guy won't fight him.
The guy still won't fight him. He basically destroys, like he desecrates his religion, and the guy still won't fight him. I think that's very telling. I think that was a commentary on our society. Sometimes you gotta fight.
Sometimes you do.
Sometimes you gotta solve your problems through violence. I think
Take charge of your own life and beat up a preacher.
beat up a preacher. Yeah, we don't condone that.
Yeah,
but,
we do not condone that, so
But
that's not on us.
I think you could also look at it as these guys were savages. They were fighting for no apparent
they
reason.
were fighting for
No.
no reason. There's no point to their violence. But then I think towards the end of the movie, they do structure their violence a little more against society. I think they really want to change. I think it's like in the movie Shane. We've all seen Shane, and we know that there's a group of outlaws that want society the way it was in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And they do everything they can. They terrorize the people and stuff like that. Similarly to the way Project Mayhem terrorizes or whatever they deem their project that they're working on. It's basically just terrorist acts. So in the same way that sort of destroys society, they want it to be the way it was in the past. They want people to not care about what they own. I think one of the most important quotes in the movie is the things you own end up owning you. I think that plays back to the idea of a cowboy with just the clothes on his back, free to explore the land, experience the scenery.
I would definitely agree with that statement. By today's society, I'm looking around, just all the things that I have. I'm looking at the microphone here that I'm speaking into. Like, without this thing, we wouldn't have a job here. Like, this is what we're good at. We're good at talking into a microphone for y'all to listen to. And excuse my southern there, but this microphone owns me. This is the thing that I come in down to every day, and I sit down to, and I just talk. Mm-hmm. This is how I get my emotions and my feeling coming through. But at the end of the day, it's also my paycheck.
Yeah, but I think going back to that, that's your tool to get that. But these guys, they don't need that tool.
They don't.
They found it in themselves to do it. Through fighting, through violence.
Mm-hmm.
They find a way to express themselves, to express their anger with society. Especially one of the crazier aspects of the movie, we're just going to skip to the very end of the movie, where his idea, the culmination of Project Mayhem, is to destroy 2 credit card companies and wipe away the debt so everybody is equal. It's sort of a reset button. Everybody goes back to zero. Everybody becomes the same, and they can find themselves again without being a slave to modern society. And I think that's what the movie was trying to express, is that, yeah, it's okay to be violent every now and then. You know? Sometimes you just gotta punch something. Like, how do you really know who you are unless you've been in a fight?
That's true. I mean, I can't say I've ever been in any big fights that, weren't like...
We're going to go back to middle school fights? I think we could talk about that.
I think we should talk about middle school fights. I mean, I know in middle school, I didn't necessarily fight a lot. I was on the wrestling team in middle school, and I mean, everything there was, under supervision and whatnot, but that was a huge stress reliever for me. Like, getting out on the floor, you go up and you shake hands with this other kid, and you're looking into each other's eyes, and who's ever got the meaner stare is the one that It's gonna make you either makes or breaks you in the end. And
I know Brandon has some experience. What do you do?
yeah, let's hear that.
Yeah, I've had years of experience with boxing, kickboxing, wrestling. You know, it's definitely gets your anger out.
Mhm.
It's a good stress reliever.
Do you think you found yourself
I
within it?
Yeah, I definitely think you can want someone who has a problem with anger can definitely find themselves with a stress reliever and something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great. I mean, obviously we shouldn't go overboard, like like some of the
Start
violence in this movie.
picking
'cause
fights with random people.
people, yeah,
Yeah, no.
definitely not. But like, I think that just goes to show that most people aren't willing to fight.
Which is a good thing
It's especially.
in society today. But
But I mean, yes, the fights there were organized, but still, a lot of characters were able to. That's what they were.
and you get a lot of satisfaction too from fighting as well. Like to me, at least, I can't speak for Brandon, but there was something really satisfying about taking a guy, lifting him up by his legs, and just throwing him down onto a mat.
Like that one time he picked up Tim and threw him down. That was a loud thump, but
Thump thump.
yeah. But going back to the movie, they wipe away the credit card debt. It's pretty much it's a rebirth. In a way, you see his character become reborn because he kills off Tyler. He doesn't need him anymore. He's his own person. He's his own man. He can do what he wants to do. So, I mean, in a nutshell, I think Fight Club is a great demonstration of how one can express themselves and really regenerate through violence. I mean, maybe they are not typical Americans. Maybe we shouldn't go so far to call them true Americans.
No,
but,
they're not normal in any sense.
no. But I think they do get the point across effectively that sometimes you might have to, bust a few skulls in order to get your point across, to get yourself heard.
Exactly.
So, with that being said, we're not going to bust Turner's skull anymore. But
I don't think so, but I think we did. I think we do have some things that he said that we have proven wrong, and I definitely agree that we have proven some of part of his thesis wrong.
I mean, I think it's obviously, if I might, I'll speak for him in his absence, but what he was trying to say is, we can't experience that today, but
No.
he's wrong in that sense. Obviously, we can't experience what people in the past experienced, like going out to the West and actually settling stuff, because that's all gone.
You can't go move out west
Go back in
and have somebody.
Yeah, we can't go back.
There's
in time.
somebody within 50 miles of wherever you are going to be. That's just the sad truth of the world now.
Mhm.
Is that we're so settled, but you can still experience the West through the culture and even through nature. I mean, it may be very limited, but you can still experience it.
through just like the landscape,
Mm-hmm.
the nature, fighting. I mean, you can really experience it, and I think that it's important to actually go out into nature. I think that's what a lot of these movies were trying to tell us. It's important to go out. It's basically important to find yourself, and however you do that, that's cool. That's
You do you. Like,
yeah, I think that's a trait of the American Adam there. Be an individual, be you, express yourself. That's what these movies were talking about.
Like, break the chains that hold you back.
Break the chains that hold you back. And on that note, I think we're going to wrap it up here. This has
All right.
been the Best Western Podcast, bringing you the best commentary on the West.
Oh, only the best. Let's be clear about that. Don't listen to them other Western stations out there.
All right.
Well, as Stuart said, this has been the Best Western. I'm Sam.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Stuart.
And
we're
thank you
signing
all for
off.
listening. Have a wonderful and giddy up.